The ballroom shimmered with golden light, the air thick with nostalgia, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Old friends reconnected, reliving memories of youth, but for me, the night was anything but joyful. It was the night I learned the truth. The night my marriage shattered before my eyes. I had walked in with my wife, Isabel, still clinging to the fragile hope that my suspicions were wrong. She had been acting strangely in the weeks leading up to our 15-year class reunion. Secretive phone calls, an obsessive focus on her appearance, even a spa day she never would have bothered with before. I had convinced myself it was just excitement about seeing old friends. But deep down, an uneasy feeling gnawed at me. And then, one night, I saw the name on her phone screen, Lucas. At first, it meant nothing. But then it clicked. Lucas Morrow. Her high school sweetheart. The one she always spoke of with a wistful sigh. The one that got away. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't just a reunion. It was a rekindling. Even so, I held on to hope, until the moment we stepped into that opulent ballroom. Isabel's hand slipped from mine the instant we crossed the threshold, her attention drawn elsewhere. She greeted old friends with warm whispers, her laughter carrying across the room, but I was invisible. And then he arrived. Lucas Morrow strode in like he owned the place, his confidence effortless, his smile practiced. The moment Isabel saw him, she lit up, not the polite glow of reunion but the kind of radiance a woman reserves for a man she wants. She rushed to him without a second thought, her hands on his chest, his arms wrapping around her waist. And as they swayed to the music, his hands roamed freely, shamelessly. I stood there watching, my rage simmering beneath the surface. But it was when she turned to me, with a cruel mocking laugh, that something inside me snapped. I strode toward them, my pulse thundering in my ears. Grabbing Lucas's arm I growled, "Take your hands off my wife, or I'll break them." He smirked, leaning in, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Try it, nerd. I'll leave you in a bloody heap." "And Isabel?" She laughed. Again. Right in my face. The crowd around us had gone quiet, watching, whispering. In that moment, realization struck me like a hammer. I had given this woman everything. I had spent years building a successful career, providing her with a life of luxury and security. I had sacrificed, believing that love meant devotion. And yet, she saw me as weak. As disposable. A joke to be discarded when something more exciting came along. But what she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I had been preparing for this moment long before tonight. I let my fury melt into something colder, sharper. Instead of reacting, I smiled. Isabel's laughter faltered, confusion flickering across her face. Lucas hesitated, sensing a shift. Good. They weren't expecting this. I turned to the bartender and ordered a drink, taking a slow sip as I pulled out my phone. With the press of a button, I sent a message, to my lawyer, to my banker, to the private investigator I had hired weeks ago. Because while Isabel had been sneaking around with Lucas, believing she was in control, I had been uncovering everything. I knew about the secret apartment she had been renting under a fake name. I knew about the hidden bank account where she had been stashing money for months. I knew that Lucas wasn't just an old flame, he was a con artist. A man who had spent years seducing and exploiting women like Isabel, using them to fund his extravagant lifestyle. And she had fallen for it. Hard. Tonight, everything would come crashing down. I turned back to them, watching as they reveled in their imagined victory. Lucas, arrogant and unaware. Isabel, still believing she had humiliated me. I smirked. Raised my glass. Enjoy the night. Isabel's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering across her face. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, her voice sharp. I didn't answer. I only smiled, the kind of smile that sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. She still didn't understand, still believed she was in control. She thought she had humiliated me in front of our entire class, reducing me to nothing but a scorned, defeated man. What she didn't realize was that, as she stood there basking in her victory, her world was already beginning to collapse. She remained close to Lucas, her fingers tracing his arm absently, though her eyes darted between me and the growing crowd. She expected me to storm off in disgrace, to crumble under the weight of betrayal. She was wrong. I turned away, casual, unbothered, strolling toward the bar as if the moment meant nothing to me. And then, as if on cue, the unraveling began. A single chime. A phone. Then another. And another. The soft murmurs of conversation shifted, whispers rippling through the ballroom like a slow-building storm. People turned, glancing between their screens and Isabel, their faces shifting from curiosity to shock, to something worse, disgust. Isabel frowned, pulling her phone from her clutch. The moment her eyes landed on the screen, her face drained of color. Her breath caught, hands trembling as she scrolled, the glow of her screen illuminating the horror setting in. "What's wrong?" Lucas asked, his tone more irritated than concerned. And then the whispers turned to laughter. I leaned against the bar, swirling my drink, watching as realization dawned in her wide, panicked eyes. She lifted her head, searching for me, her voice shaking. "What did you do?" I raised my glass in a slow, deliberate toast. "Oh, I just thought your classmates should know the truth." Lucas, suddenly on edge, yanked his own phone from his pocket. The instant he saw the screen, his entire demeanor changed. His jaw tightened, his face darkening. Because at that very moment, everyone in the room had just received an email, sent from Isabel's own account. Attached were screenshots, bank statements, secret messages. The undeniable evidence of her affair, proof that she had been siphoning money from our joint accounts. And, most importantly, the documents exposing Lucas for what he truly was, a con artist. For years, he had perfected his game, seducing wealthy women, promising them love and a new future while methodically draining their finances. Isabel, in her arrogance, had thought she was in control. She had been so sure that she was winning. But in reality, she had been nothing more than his latest victim. The room buzzed with scandalized murmurs. "My God, she was funding his entire life," someone whispered. "She was planning to leave Nathan and take all his money with her," another voice added, the words sharp with judgment. Lucas turned to Isabel, his mask of charm and confidence completely gone, replaced by pure, seething rage. "You stupid. How could you let this happen?" Isabel staggered back, stunned. "Me? You said no one would find out." I chuckled, taking another slow sip of my drink. "Oh, did he now? And you believed him?" Lucas's fury shifted toward me. "You think this is funny?" I straightened, stepping closer, my voice even, unshaken. "No, Lucas. What's funny is that you thought you could get away with it." His fists clenched, his body tensing. He was the type of man who relied on intimidation, on fear. But I wasn't afraid. I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone once more. "Before you do something stupid, you should know." I tapped the screen. "Your bank accounts? Frozen. Your credit cards? Cancelled. That penthouse you've been staying in? Evicted, as of 30 minutes ago." I watched as the reality of his situation settled over him like a crushing weight. "You have nothing." The blood drained from his face. "You're broke, Lucas. Just like every woman you've scammed before. Except this time," I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice, "there's no one left to save you." Isabel turned frantically, looking for an escape, for someone to come to her defense. But the crowd had already made up their minds. Her so-called friends took a step back, their expressions laced with judgment and revulsion. Her boss, a respected figure in finance, shook his head, his voice laced with disappointment. "This is a disgrace." Her entire world was slipping through her fingers, and for the first time that night, true fear flickered in her eyes. "Nathan, please." I held up a hand, stopping her. "Oh, don't worry, Isabel." My voice was smooth, almost kind. "I made sure you'll have plenty of time to think about what you've done." Her brows furrowed in confusion, until the doors swung open, and uniformed officers stepped inside. "Isabel Cotter?" She turned slowly, her body stiff with dread. "We have a warrant for your arrest. Charges include financial fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement." She staggered back, her mouth opening and closing, her mind scrambling for a defense. "No, there must be a mistake." Lucas's laughter was bitter, cruel. "Looks like you got played too, sweetheart." I took a final step toward her, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You tried to destroy me, Isabel." I let my smirk widen as the officers moved in. "But I'm always 10 steps ahead." As they locked the handcuffs around her wrists, she thrashed, her voice breaking as she screamed my name. But I didn't flinch. I only watched, calm, composed, completely free of the woman who had so foolishly believed she could ruin me. Lucas disappeared after that night. The last I heard, he was begging for money online, his reputation in tatters. Isabel lost everything: her career in finance, her credibility, her freedom. Fraud charges don't disappear easily. And me? I moved on. Found someone who truly loved and respected me. Someone who didn't see me as a stepping stone, but as an equal. Every once in a while, when I think back to that night, I remind myself of one simple truth. The best revenge isn't anger. It's success.